welcome to another episode of Municipal Focus. My name is Kevin Tocci, and of course, as you know, I share the duties. We flip the coin. It's my turn to host. Of course, my co-host across the way, Mr. Bob Hayes. Bob, welcome back to our show.
How are you, Todd? Jeez, I wasn't sure if I still recognize you, but the most important part of the show is our guest tonight.
Who is our guest? Do you know?
Our guest is Mark Linde. He is the Democratic chairperson for the city of Brockton. Am I correct?
Democratic City Committee chair for City of Brockton. Yep.
Exactly. Mark?
Good to see you. Nice to be back.
Good to see you.
Hey, Kevin.
Welcome, Mr. Linde. Mr. Linde, of course, wears many hats. That's not the only one, but we didn't know which title, and again, we flipped the coin for that. But he is the chair. He is the chairman for the Democratic City Committee, and there's a lot of duties entailed in that. And this is kind of his second time here. He's not a rookie anymore.
Right.
He's also the general manager of Brockton Community Access. He's a community guy, and has also done cable. Been doing cable about 30 years.
31.
30, 3 decades.
That's amazing, Mark. Tell us a little bit about what it involves. And I know, Todd, we've got a different flavor going on, but what does it involve? People don't understand. A lot of people think just because you're like the Democratic chairperson, there's a ton involved, especially in a city.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, I inherited it. I was the first vice chairman, and our chairman resigned. So I was the vice chairman years ago when Richard Bath was the chair, and a few things got in the way. So I kind of stepped back. I was still the Ward 1 chair. I was the secretary because no one would take the minutes, so I got that job. But behind the scenes, we just put on a big breakfast. We just actually had 200 people over at the Brockton VFW, and we had basically a candidates forum of all the Democratic candidates that were running in the preliminary election. It's a nonpartisan election, but we wanted to get our Democrats in. And we had everybody speak. We originally had Stan Rosenberg, the Senate president, coming down to speak, but he went on a fact-finding mission to Quebec. So we were number 2. We were going to have him talk about the importance of electing a Democratic state senator to follow in Tom Kennedy's footsteps. So Mike Brady, who's running for the seat, was there to speak. The 2 Democratic candidates that are running for mayor, because the other 2 candidates were unenrolled, so we didn't have them speak at our event. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's getting the food, it's mailing the invites, it's doing the ad book. We had a great group of people that all pitched in and helped. It was a team effort with a new team. We all got together. Some of my team, 2 of them, one of them was running for council at large, and the other one's getting ready to run for council in Ward 5. So we patched together a whole bunch of people, and we served the food. Our caterer canceled 3 weeks before the event, so we had to figure out food all over again. My wife did a heck of a lot, right? My wife wanted it to be
Terry
a success.
does a nice job.
So I was lucky that she did all of that.
She's like a jack of all trades.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
But it's fun.
And now, do you know what he has in common with you, Bob?
No, both of us are bald.
There you go.
You always go for the obvious.
Yeah.
No, he is actually an elected member for a school committee, but for a regional school district for Southeastern Regional. He sits on the Southeastern Regional School Committee. So he's a school committee member like you, and I think he once or twice served as chair.
I was chair for 2 years. I'm the vice chair now. Joe Dutcher.
Joe Dutcher, who's a car dealer. I know him very well.
Joe Dutcher is a great guy. He's a chair, and I was almost going to be chair for a day again coming up, but they moved the date of the meeting. So Joe's still going to be here. He does some Florida time. He has a little more leisure time than I do. Joe's a great guy, very involved with East Bridgewater. He's on the Housing Authority over there. We all wear many hats. I'm one of the 2 Brockton reps, Wayne McAllister being the other one. And you have a 4-year term, which is nice. And I'm in my 2nd term and hope to return for a 3rd.
But that's not why we're here, gathered here today to talk. We're kind of here to talk. I think the last time we talked, we might have talked a little bit about the state Senate seat, Tom Kennedy. I thought we could kind of stick with another regional topic. And where we had such a good conversation last time, I thought it was important to have you back to talk about something that I think that could have a regional effect if it ever happens. And that is the proposal to build a $650 million resort casino in Brockton at the site of the fairgrounds. It's going to be determined whether there will be another Brockton Fair. But it was put in right now. Brockton is the lone suitor because down in New Bedford, their funding fell apart. They tried it. It seemed as though the Mass Gaming Commission kept pushing it back, and they were trying to give New Bedford as much, assistance as possible to get everything in order, so there'd be some kind of a competitive process. But they ultimately had to kind of, I want to say KGI, Urban, and Foxwoods was somehow a part of that. They had to drop out of it. But there's more news that has come to light in the past couple of days. We'll get to that in a moment. But let me feel you gentlemen out as to give your thoughts about this, because some people really have strong feelings about a casino being in a community like Brockton.
Well, it was an election topic, basically. There were candidates that were running for mayor that were against it. The mayor is strongly for it. Okay, it comes to blows over this casino in Brockton. There are people, depending on which side of the coin you're at, that'll beat you up in the parking lot. Okay, and honestly, there's pros and cons to it. Sure. I never in a million years thought it was going to be that close of a vote. I thought it was going to be a runaway because all I heard was pro. I didn't. There was a lot of negativity. Well, not negativity, but against it. They organized, and it was a David and Goliath kind of Herculean thing because there was way more money for it and almost no money against it.
It's like, I would say $3,000 or $4,000 compared to $1.6 million.
Absolutely, and if you looked at the signs said yes for jobs. It said nothing about the casino.
You're absolutely right.
The other one was no on the casino, and we went to the forums. We covered the forums. We did things. We gave both sides of the coin their opportunity, and there are people that are just adamantly opposed to it because of its location. Mm-hmm. Okay, there are people that are just opposed to casino gambling. Mm-hmm. There are people that are so for it and so pro. It's like hard not to have a fist fight over it, to be honest with you.
I'll add to that in a moment. Bob, give your take on it.
Well, as you know, it not only is going to impact the city of Brockton, but it's going to impact the towns, Whitman, Abington, Mansfield, Easton, Stoughton, and there's been some talk from the leaders of those towns, not only pro and con, but everybody seems to have some sort of not so much a handout, but looking at what are we going to get and how are we going to mitigate the problems from the casino falling over into, we'll say, the towns of Whitman or Abington, or again, Mansfield, Stoughton, because some of that could happen. And that's something that I think was brought into it by the group that was against the casinos. They were out rallying some of the smaller towns. They weren't spending any money because, as you said, it was a huge event where one group had $4,000 or $5,000 and the other group had $1.6 million. So they were out beating the bushes, and that might be why, Mark, it came on so strong and the vote became so close, because they really get out there, and there was a lot of people involved that were involved with churches that was saying it was against this belief or that belief, and that might have brought some of the people into it. Well, it's tough.
It's funny you mention that, because, and I want to kind of follow up what Mark had said as far as coming to blows. As folks may or may not know, besides being a proud member of Whitman Hills Community Access, I also work for a local radio station in the South Shore. And there's an individual who is on the same radio station as me, who is vehemently opposed to this. And we've had discussions. And myself, I don't have a horse in the race. You know what I mean? I don't have a fight. But to me, the one thing that aggravates me is when somebody wants to. There are those people who they know how to fight fair, and they know how to say this is why, and give you the plain black and white, give you the facts. And there are those people who will tweak their information so it looks that much more, you know what I mean? I would have a conversation with this individual, like, it's right next to a high school. I go, technically it's not right next to it. It's across the way from it. And the way that they're going to have it designed, it's going to be set back, and you won't be able to see it the way they're going to design it. And he goes, what are you talking about? You for it? I go, no. I just want you to be accurate when you say this. Oh, there's going to be problems with traffic. I go, well, they're also talking about $15 million worth of upgrades that they've done a traffic study, and combined with, I think, like $8 million that the state is going to, put into this that, Rush Street Gaming or whatever the subsidiary is going to be, Mass Gaming, is going to they're going to throw in about $7 million, and they'll make the necessary changes so that it kind of alleviates some of the traffic issues. But there are people in the communities who don't want near them, and I think a lot of those people mobilized with folks like the Brockton Interfaith community, and you've probably had a chance to speak with some of them. I actually this week had a chance to speak with Isabel Lopez, who's one of the ones who's out there mobilizing and talks about this on a regular basis, how they feel that this is the wrong way. You're talking about a community, though, that wants to be able to have enough money to, you don't want to cut teachers when it comes May 15th, May 16th, that you're not sitting out and sending out notices to teachers saying, we may lay you off. You want to be able to bolster your police department and give it levels that it hasn't seen in years, because you're trying to fight a crime element. And the only way to do it is if you were able to get $10 million annually, and that's what the host agreement says, $10 million and then some, depending on how the casino does. What do you guys think?
Well, I was reading somebody the other day talking about what's going on down in Taunton, and it involved hiring X number of police officers as part of that agreement, which is interesting.
I think it's like $7 million a year Taunton would get.
Okay, it's like I said, it's coming to blows because we both know a person that lives adjacent to the property.
Yeah.
Okay, and I asked people when I was deciding what to do that were abutters or neighbors or people that I knew in the neighborhood. What do you think about what's this going to do to you? You put up with the fair every year. You put up with some of the infrastructure over there that isn't. Okay, you look at pictures with the buffer zones that they're going to have, with the landscaping, with the trees, where the parking is, where the facility is. Almost anything's an improvement over there over what they have, okay? And, I mean, Mr. Carty's made it abundantly clear. I attended that forum, you attended that forum at West Junior High. He says, fine, I don't get a casino. It's going to be a big Walmart or something else, and it's not going to contribute to the tax base to the extent that it would now.
Right.
I'm not running for anything, so therefore I'm not going to come out with a position. Like when I ran for rep, I had to come out with a position on the power plant. I tried to be neutral before that because we had people on the station talking about it one way or the other, so I didn't want to identify which way I was. Right. Okay, but when I ran, I did. I'm not a city councilor. We've asked the question to all the different candidates, and my big thing is, where are you going to get the money to fund what the city needs to fund if you don't do this? If you're against the power plant and you're against this, what's the plan for revenue for the city of Brockton? And that's what they have to wrestle with.
Bob?
Well, I think there's another element, too, that some of the people that are against the casino are saying. Take a look at Atlantic City. Take a look at Shreveport. Take a look at some of these other places where the casinos have opened and failed. Now what do you do? And I know that's being a kind of a third week in football throw of what we're going to do once it's already the game's over, because they can't plan it. But also, you mentioned a very good point, and this has been brought up. There's going to be $10 million brought into the city of Brockton to add
annually
to add police,
right,
to add fire. But there are also other people who are the naysayers that are saying, yeah, in that $10 million you're going to spend on extra police and extra fire because of the casino and because of the things that casinos bring. So I understand both points, and I'm not a gambler, so it doesn't make any difference to me. But I also have heard from the towns, because I'm involved with the towns, their concerns of how is it going to fall over into the towns. Personally, I don't think that it's going to do a tremendous amount to the towns because of the location. It's on the west side of Brockton. Yeah. It's going to be very close to Route 24.
That's right.
People are going to come from 24 and go from 24. The people that are traveling through the towns of Whitman and Hanson and Abington are going to be local residents that are heading there. Anybody that's going to be coming from any distances is going to come via a highway. Absolutely. So I really believe that part is a non-issue. I really believe that the people that are coming in, the local people here, will enjoy it. and the people who don't care won't care. But it is kind of stepped up over, and it's probably more of a concern for Easton,
Sure.
maybe, than it would be for a Whitman or a Hanson or an Abington.
Now there was a new wrinkle that came to light in the past 7 to 10 days, and that is that a conversation that I've had a privilege to sit in with people who felt that the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, this is a group that initially, we remember back, maybe 7, 8 years ago, when they were there was a huge vote, a big vote that was taken to build one in Middleborough. It never came to fruition. And then when it became legal, when the gaming law went into effect, and it was bandied about, okay, we're going to be able to have 3 resort casinos, up to 3 resort casino licenses, and a slots parlor. Then the word started percolating that, that the Mashpee Wampanoags were actually looking for a place other than Middleborough, because they found a way out of that contract that they had negotiated with the town of Middleborough, and that they were looking to do a deal with East Taunton, and that's what ended up happening. But the big problem with it that a lot of people didn't know is that they were having problems financially, and that they had to have land in trust, and they had to fill out an application. They had to prove land in trust, and that there were other acts, something called the Kacheri Act, where you had to. My limited knowledge of it is the recognition of the tribe, ancestry, stuff like that had to be proven, and that the tribe hadn't done anything in the way to prove it. Mm-hmm. Okay, but recently, the federal government decided that, in fact, that I think 151 acres can actually be taken into land into trust. And that has opened up another can of worms, and also will have an impact on Brockton. What do you guys know about that or feel about it?
Well, it kind of becomes market saturation at that point. When you were looking at all these locations so close to each other, you got the casino slots parlor in Plainridge. It's not that particularly far from Brockton. It's about 40 minutes. Yep. You put a casino in Taunton and a casino in Brockton, and how far down 24 are you going to go, ultimately? I mean, that one's right off the highway. I think part of the Brockton problem is location, okay? If it were at Westgate Mall, I don't think people, there's still people that'd be opposed to it. I still think it would have been close, but I think easy on, easy off might have been a whole different issue. I kind of think the Gaming Commission, in a sense, has it in for Brockton.
Brockton or an individual who might own the property?
Could be that. I mean, he didn't get the slots parlor license over in Raynham. Okay, that's why he brought in a partner. Okay.
Smart move.
It is a smart
Very
move. He's
smart
a smart
move.
businessman. He's always
smart.
been a smart businessman. Okay.
Absolutely.
But I think the Taunton in the casino, I think it changes everything. I think it's going to be hard pressed to see them grant a license. And the anti-people went big for public comment. There are public comments. There's on both sides. I mean, there's tons of public comments, yes, and there's tons of public comments, no. But the public comments that are no are more, average voters, random people, unsolicited. There's a campaign. They did a campaign because you can write a letter and you throw a 49-cent stamp on it. It's not a big deal. You can send an email, and that's where your playing field is leveled with all the money that goes for the yes side versus the no side. But I think that the new wrinkle changes everything. That's just my opinion.
Well, Kevin, you mentioned Middleborough and this particular tribe that they talked about. When they did the Middleborough proposal, they were very unorganized. They were very underfunded. There was a lot of wrinkles in that mess when they were trying to get the Middleborough casino through. And it really, that Middleborough thing never really got off the ground. It was something that it was proposed. It was kind of like the first venture into it.
But there was a contract, and I know the person who helped write the contract for the Board of Selectmen.
It was
brokered it.
It was kind of a mess. I mean, if you really go back to it, I think everybody concerned can see that some of the people, it was a first contract and it was the first issue going in, and everybody's learned from that. So I'm sure they've learned from. But going back to what Mark said about the East Taunton people, they've got a saturation of people over there that are opposed to it in a big way.
Yep.
in a big, big way, and it's not going to be something that's going to be real easy. And can southeastern Massachusetts really support a slot parlor in Plainville, which is at the end of Route 1 on 495? And it's, I mean, if you're traveling right along, you could hit all three of those casinos in an hour and a half. I mean, you could physically, if you're not getting lucky in Plainville, you could go to East Taunton.
All right, so you have a plan. Okay,
you could
good.
go to Brockton.
Okay.
I mean, you really could. And gamblers are superstitious people. They will be people that will be doing that.
Well, I want to throw in. We've a little less than 10 minutes left here. We've had a good conversation, and throw in the last wrinkle here and a couple of things that folks may or may not know, and that is. First off, anybody who's read the host agreement with Brockton deals with this very situation. That if in fact Taunton gets a resort casino, if they build one, I believe two things could happen. Either the amount of money annually that the city would get would be downgraded to $6.75 million. I don't know if there's a provision to renegotiate, or if that is if for some reason the gaming law got somehow amended to have more casinos, then there could be a negotiation on the host agreement in order to kind of, downgrade it from the $10 million down even further. But this week, the Mass Gaming Commission met. And I know that Rush Street Gaming, that's the one who is the parent company who is pushing for to build a casino, was like, hey, what's going on here? We want this thing to move along. We're the last one standing here. We've done everything we need, and there's kind of a little bit of stalling going on. And some people seem to think that, in fact, and I think you said it, Bob, is that it may not be in the cards. Maybe the Mass Gaming Commission is not in favor of putting a casino, because it is, honestly, how close is it to where Everett is going to be building one? I mean, New Bedford, let's be honest, I think New Bedford was the perfect place because it served a couple of purposes. First off, the last governor, invested to build a new railway, the South Coast Rail, going down and being able to help the folks down in the Fall River, New Bedford area.
I think that train's left the station, though.
No, it's in the works right now. The South Coast Rail is in the works, and it would have been perfect if that casino was down there, and that you would kind of have a purpose. You'd have a rail line that would be going down, and it would help, and it would help the economy in that area. I don't think that when Brockton threw their hat in the ring, anybody expected it. Nobody expected it.
No, I don't think so. Well, I kind of did, only because when George Carney didn't get the slots parlor license, I thought he might come up with another plan. I actually did.
And he did.
And
no surprise.
Nope.
Years ago, he would have gotten that license hands down. He had a lot more political clout then. He had, I think, a full-time lobbyist up on Beacon Hill. Yep. I think it was Paul Studensky Sr., if I'm not mistaken, who was his full-time lobbyist, at the time. He was very well connected up in Beacon Hill, and when he lost his Greyhound license, when that ballot initiative went on, that was one of our fundraisers for the Democratic City Committee. We used to do Day at the Races. Everybody would sponsor a race, would have a nice meal over there, and then all of a sudden it was gone and 600 jobs to go along with it. Right. The jobs question, I think, is important because they're not imaginary jobs. They're not, I don't know how well paying they all are, but there's a lot of jobs that don't exist right now, and people are like, okay, well, you take the bite out of the apple and you're going to be in trouble. But, I kind of think the Gaming Commission had the option to not do anything. And can they still pull that card? Can they still say, we're not going to give it to Brockton?
I believe they have that power. I believe they had that power. They don't have to give it. And you know what? To be honest, does the state really need 3 resort-style casinos? Does it need it? I mean, the state's going to make money because of the money that they generate from the license itself.
There's 2 in Connecticut. So the question is 3 in Massachusetts. You got Everett, you got Springfield.
Maine, I believe one is, and you're talking about other New England states that are considering doing it too.
And they're trying to do something in, what is it, Tiverton? the people that do Twin Rivers are trying to do Tiverton. I don't know where that
Well,
stands.
there's been a conversation. There's been a conversation, and I think
Close. Tiverton's real close.
it was part of a conversation that supposedly that there's a lawsuit that's being pushed by a Connecticut casino. I don't know if MGM is tied to it or not. I don't have that in front of me, about the fact that the state might be considering having another tribal casino somewhere on the Massachusetts border, and not feeling that that's fair. So we'll end up seeing what happens. But again, time's winding down here. Let's try to. Give me your thoughts. Where do we see this playing out? In your opinion, how does this play out, Mark?
It's all about timing. You said stall. I agree with you. I think that's the ultimate stall. I think and the question is,
did that for New Bedford.
Is Rush Street going to just walk away if it's stalled too much?
You've already spent
There's a lot of
money,
money at stake.
Yep.
So you probably don't walk away from something if you spent that kind of money. So I think they probably have a little bit more patience. But it all depends on the speed that the tribal council and everything happens down in Taunton. Mm-hmm. Okay. When was the Middleborough Casino? 7 years ago, 10 years ago?
It was
7 years ago.
I think people are tired of waiting, and meanwhile, all the money's going elsewhere. It's Plain Ridge, Twin Rivers. I like the other aspects that go with casinos, the restaurants, the other things that go to it. I never heard the word resort mentioned with Brockton in my entire life until this casino project came into place. Brockton's not known as a resort by any stretch.
I would worry about surrounding businesses when you're talking about a resort casino, and the worry about hurting small business, and that's what I worry about. What you've built, Bob. What's your final thought on this?
Well, my thought is this, and I'd like to ask the viewers, ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard a good conversation about the casinos, and they appear to be within 25 miles apart, the three of these casinos. They're on 495 by Route 1. Their East Taunton is very close to Brockton. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's over by the old Taunton Raynham dog track. It is very close to Brockton, and then you're talking Brockton. What is your opinion? Should we build 3 casinos in the state of Massachusetts within 25 miles, and will they succeed? Please call us, and Kevin's going to give you the information in a moment of how to get a hold of us and what your thoughts are. So please call in.
I think, Mark, do you want to say something to close out? Because we got 2 minutes left.
2 minutes left.
Just to close.
I want to see some kind of closure brought to it. I want to see where it's going to end up. Brockton is looking to build a budget based on revenue from this project. If they don't get it, they have to come up with another plan. The other revenue stream is the power plant, which is or isn't decided right now. So something's got to give as far as Brockton goes. Taunton can sit it out a little longer because it's this long so far. But I think the question posed to the viewers, I'd like to know what the viewers think.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I'd like to see what ends up happening, and I guess this is the point where I say to you, the viewers, as we wrap up this segment, we'd like to get your input, and that's easy to do. You can always send an email to whcatelevision@gmail.com, and you want to put in the subject title, Municipal Focus Casinos. And whatever your thought is maybe it's something that we have another conversation. We bring Mark back. Maybe we have the emails here in front of us. We'll see what happens. We'll see what we're generating out of this. But we want to hear what you think, whether it's surrounding towns, how should they be a part of this, and as far as monies, if Brockton does get one. So we want to thank Mark. Mark, thank you so much for being here. Bob, always a great job.
Mark, thank you.
Until next time, you have been watching Municipal Focus. Have a great day.